Admit it. One of the best moments in action anime is when a character just simply, for lack of a better term, doesn't give a damn about his opponent. It doesn't matter how strong the opponent is or how many enemies there are, you have one overpowered character pull a one-man army or just assert complete dominance on any opponent. It's one of the most satisfying feelings that caused the popularity of overpowered main characters, in my opinion. You're in for a treat today because we'll be taking a look at anime moments where a character just simply showcases his powers. If you're up for some top tier flexing, you've come to the right place. There are many things that Levi is. Cool, powerful, resourceful, relentless, amongst others. Now what happens if you put all of those together in one short package? The ultimate Titan killing machine, that's what. He's had a lot of great moments that got fangirls wet, but what bigger showcase of power than his duel with the Beast Titan? For all the hype that the Beast Titan got, he sure fell rather quickly to Levi. Technically, Levi didn't do this alone, and the meticulous dissection of the Beast Titan would never have been possible without major sacrifices. However, once the stage has been set and Levi was let loose, it was over. The Beast Titan didn't know what hit him, and before long, we're treated to one of the most elaborate destructions of a Titan in the entire series. Coming up next is Tatsuya's material burst. When political warfare gets serious, things become, well, quite complicated, especially if you're talking about an entire alliance of enemies led by not China in the Mahoka-verse. Thankfully, Japan has something that any other nation in the world doesn't have. Godsuya. Heck, why risk having the enemy forces land and start a bloody war that will guarantee uncountable casualties? Just blast the entire fleet and evaporate them while they're still at sea. Watch how Tatsuya does it from the comfort of a faraway military base. Material Burst, as they call it, is one of the most powerful forces of destruction in the Mahoka universe. Tatsuya, at this point in the series, has had a lot of these moments already. There was a time he knocked someone out by staring at him, or that one time he melted a bus on the road from inside a classroom. Oh, and there's beating a sniper using his pistol, but none of them comes close to this one in terms of scale. A second light novel protagonist makes his way to the list, and we have Arnos coming in next.
バカめ、俺は死んでもギブアップなどしねえ。加減しても死ぬか。
You know how you, being the strongest demon lord ever, showcase your power to your weak descendants? By first killing someone without even lifting a finger. Over and over and over again. Not done having fun? Arnos revives. It doesn't matter that the poor victim seems to have these cool powers or can make some brave speeches that you typically hear from powerful opponents. Somehow there's a twisted sense of satisfaction seeing Arnos just cakewalk over the opposition, then willingly bring him back just to make a statement. Just the perfect moment to set up and give your viewers expectations as to what misfit of Demon King Academy is. I'd say that this is an exaggerated parody of the Magic Academy light novel genre, kind of like what One Punch Man is to superhero and shonen series. A short turn your brain off series that you might enjoy, so do check it out.
俺こそが暴虐の魔王。あのスポルディゴードだ。震えるさ。決めるのは我だ。まずい、マジだ。死ね。
Let's continue with more heroic examples with Escanor. Given Seven Deadly Sins' reputation as a shonen series where everyone's power limiters just get taken off and allowed to run wild, I expected something from the show to make its way to the list. The main problem is, however, was picking the right moment to feature because there are so many of them. After careful deliberation, my personal favorite showcase of power you'll see out of the series is Escanor's battle against two commandments, Galland and Molescula. All the trash talking and the showcase of power by those two may seem impressive at first glance, but not to Escanor. After all of that, all they managed to do is a puny cut, and when it's Escanor's turn, consider the battle finished. The result? Well, a perfect victory. Escanor comes out of the 2-on-1 completely uninjured. I'd call this one of the biggest flexes in all of Seven Deadly Sins, and seeing as we're talking about Escanor, I guess that statement can be taken a little bit more literally. A supposed boss fight that gets wrapped up in a little less than 2 chapters in the manga and a couple of minutes in the anime? Hilarious, but that's Escanor for you.
私が7つの大罪、傲慢の罪、ライオン神エスカノール様だ。移動した。また血気術。
Up next, we have Muzan killing the lower moons. I think that the scene of a villain killing his minions for their weakness has become quite common. However, what's less common is the villain doing so just because. Muzan does that in short order. You remember that lower moon that gave our heroes trouble? Of course you do. Half of you probably got into Demon Slayer because of the episode where Tanjiro fights the guy. Now imagine multiples of them and Muzan just easily disposes of them without batting an eye. All because he wanted to. All because he found them weak. Given what happened, I don't think Muzan's lying. Was it a smart decision for the leader of the demons? Most likely not. Was it a big balls flex of power? Yes, it definitely was. All of them just outright dropped dead without us even knowing what they can do, breaking the shonen rule. Remember when Utsuro was introduced where he kicked our main cast ass? I mean, beating those guys without breaking a sweat is no easy feat, but what if he starts taking on the entire freaking cast of the show? Still, not a challenge. Utsuro is right up there in the gallery of most broken anime antagonists, and the decisive fight against him is basically a showcase of how insane this guy is. Gintoki gets stomped pretty easily, but then the Shinsengumi comes in and gets their ass kicked as well. Even Kamui and Umibos are no match for him. With all these opponents giving their best shots, Utsuro still stands proud and tall, wrecking everyone like it was nothing. When the fake Garakura arc was ongoing in Bleach, you'd really wonder how much of a war it really was. It's only one side getting casualties, and the Arancars, while putting up a fight, generally looked outmatched. Once the Vizards come in, it's virtually game over it seems. But let me ask you a question. When were you under the impression that Aizen needed help? At his state, he's become the sheer embodiment of an overpowered villain, evolving and getting new powers with every fight. The illusion powers on his Zanbakuto is already troublesome. Even tanking everything that Urahara and friends have in store is just absurd. Heck, even Ichigo's super ultimate final attack gets tanked later on. Granted, it was mostly post-training Ichigo flexing on him that fight, but it just gives a perspective of what level Aizen's at. When you look at the clip, there's really nothing much to say about the fight itself. There are only so few things that you can say about a massacre of that scale happening right in front of your eyes. Gotta give props to the production team for this one, but if we're looking at it as just a fight, the bandits are no more than a minor speed bump for Afro Samurai's quest. A big show of power at that. I like the positioning of this battle because it quickly establishes Afro Samurai as one badass who's super powerful. It also gives the viewers an introduction to the artistic style of Afro Samurai and easily sets the tone of what to expect moving forward. If you remember, I listed Rai as one of the most overpowered characters. You can go to the wiki to check out what he's capable of with his list of abilities, but if you want something more visual, look no further than the final of Noblesse's anime adaptation where he takes on clan leaders. It's Rai versus 3 powerful opponents, and he still makes it look so easy. It never felt as if Rai was in any position to lose. Tanking attacks here and there and just stopping them with his open palm gave me some Mahoka flashbacks. Even together, all 3 of them are no match for Rai, leading Raskiera to finally step in, who finally gets a hit in on Rai. Such is the power of the Noblesse, the strongest among the nobles. We proceed to our next entry, Mob showing off what he's capable of. One of the hallmark moments in Mob Psycho comes in the form of Mob finally going beyond his limits. We've known Mob to be capable of releasing his psychic powers in many forms, but what if all the limiters go down? Under extreme duress, Mob's able to enter arguably his strongest form, the question mark percentage mode. It's at this point where he loses consciousness and just lets his powers run wild, and it's not pretty, especially if you're Hanazawa, who learns his lesson the hard way. Just looking at the sheer destruction Mob is capable of without as much as moving a finger is a sight to behold. Imagine what he can do when he somehow harnesses this form while conscious. Next up is King Bradley versus everyone. If you were to ask me who my favourite among the homunculus is, I'd say King Bradley in a heartbeat. Given the company he's with and the feats that the other homunculi have to their name, that's no easy feat. But let's just say that this battle impressed me so much. Granted, I never thought that anyone here would have posed a threat to Bradley, even the named characters. Still, it doesn't make this one-man army any less awesome. Take note that Bradley at this time is not even in his prime. Imagine if he's younger at this time. Precognition is probably one of the most broken abilities in anime, and giving it to someone like Bradley just feels over the top, don't you think? When I think about his eventual defeat, I still can't help but think he only lost because the plot dictates that he had to. Not to take anything away from Scar, but that's just how high Bradley's stock had become when he eventually had to bite the dust. Goto versus Yakuza comes in next. Parasite is one of my perennial favourites, and besides the themes, I particularly like how creative the fight scenes are. Look, when you've got a protagonist with a transforming sentient hand, you have free reign to do lots of things. Not in this one fight though. This is just a simple showcase of sheer power, courtesy of the series' last boss, Goto. People have commented on this scene and compared it to a guy going back to a starting area after reaching his level cap, and I would agree with that. The way he just walks up to the Yakuza and slaughters them like it was nothing. He dodges everything perfectly and just creates a sight for sadistic killers to behold, all for the sake of limit testing. Man, the Yakuza really can't get a break, can they? Name recognition and reputation just make them perfect jobbers for anime characters trying to make a point. Even later on in the series, against a world that's increasingly adjusted to fighting parasites, Goto doesn't let up. I'm legitimately sure that without our dynamic duo to stop him, the world is doomed at the hands of this supervillain.
たまにいるんだよね。暴対法ができてからヤクザは一般市民には手出しできねえって勘違いしてるやつよ。
Zero to hero? That's an intentional question mark there, because our next contender is Arifureta's Hajime. Our next featured moment is in Arifureta, a show that I'd like to call some twisted fusion between Shield Hero and Konosuba, only much edgier. So our protagonist is your typical wimpy boy who gets betrayed early on and falls to the symbolic depths of hell. Fighting his way out of it, he becomes a monster of a man, even more so than the petty demons that he gets tasked to face off in the show's run. An army of 60,000 monsters would send any village and kingdom shaking to the core, but for our protagonist, it's nothing short of easy. With his harem of various monster girls, Hajime easily wipes the floor with the entire army of hilarious CG, whatever you call those. If the subtitle, From Commonplace to the World's Strongest, hasn't been driven home yet, maybe this moment will change your mind. Here's an interesting addition. Why, you ask? If you've noticed in this list, we generally have otherworldly powers on display. The characters featured so far generally have some superhuman magic or abilities that allow them to do the flexing, so to speak. You get some broken anime powers on display, but those things don't come into play in Sword of the Stranger. It makes it more awesome to see Luo Lang just dispose of the entire team without breaking a sweat. No precognition, no super evil form, no alien abilities, just pure swordsmanship and peak human performance. Luo Lang is a monster beyond comprehension, and his introduction does a masterful job at driving that point home. Way to build up the final antagonist for our hero to face in the climax. Such an amazing build, but the actual fight is even better. Ainz has a lot of claims to fame. You don't get a horde of loyal followers from the Netherworld out of nowhere. It's not every day that you can command the respect of the denizens of Nazarick. You have to be an amazingly powerful individual capable of just showcasing your power and dominance in every corner. Thankfully, Ainz has those qualities in spades. Don't believe it? Well, you can go and check out the entire Overlord series to just see how powerful of a force Ainz is. If you want me to pick one specific moment though, maybe this one will convince you. Which anime character do you think can kill 70,000 people in one fell swoop? In one super tier magic? Only Ainz. There are characters who've done this same one-man army on that scale. Heck, we've had one on this list. But to do it in one fell swoop, with one super spell, Sasuga Ainz-sama indeed.
かかってこい人間どもいざ仰げエヌマエリシュまず捕まえ
Gilgamesh being on this list is a no-brainer. He just oozes swagger and the tendency to just flex his dominance over others. Among anime characters, I just think that Gilgamesh, especially his archer variant in the mainline Fate series, is a top contender for the title of the most haughty and arrogant character out there. Few characters can compare to him or even come close. The truth is, his arrogance is warranted. That's largely thanks to Enuma Elish, possibly the most powerful attack in that line of Fate. He deploys it against Ryder's own Noble Phantasm. Some episodes back, we already saw how powerful Ryder's Noble Phantasm was. How about Gilgamesh pulling off an even bigger flex by swinging his sword once and shattering the entire field, destroying Ryder's entire army? Simply astounding. For those who can't get enough of Enuma Elish in Fate Zero, the much nicer caster Gilgamesh also whips the bad boy out in Fate Grand Order's Babylonia adaptation, so you can look forward to that. But this moment from Fate Zero is easily one of my favorite moments from the entire Fate franchise. Man, what a moment. Hellsing Ultimate has been full of badass moments, and I think that few anime characters can come close to embodying that concept as Alucard. An overpowered character in his own right already, Alucard takes it up a complete notch with this release moment. Many goosebumps have been raised when Alucard finally enters his full power after a harrowing chant. I think that what makes this thing so awesome is that it encapsulates what Alucard has done to get to this point. Yeah, he's an anti-hero fighting for the side of relative good, but it also sheds light on how Alucard is also the representation of vileness. Releasing devoured souls to fight by his side is clearly not a good guy move, you know. And at this point, I'm pretty sure Hellsing was more than happy that this guy is fighting on their side than against them, because I can't imagine how anyone would feasibly deal with that. I also like Shiki Ryogi taking on apartment zombies. Compared to how ridiculous Alucard's level 0 transformation was, this one's way tamer. Still, it's a moment to remember from one of my favourite movie series out there. Back in those days though, can you imagine a fight sequence with choreography as silky smooth as this one? Garden of Sinners isn't classified as an action anime by any means, and this is no UFO table or mappa. Still, it doesn't take away from this awesome moment where Shiki, just armed with a knife, takes on all those apartment zombies and solos them. One by one, many against one, and it didn't even matter how the zombies approached. They're nothing but fodder getting killed and thrown out after one another. Shiki did all of this in a kimono too. She just can't keep herself from looking stylish, even when being a one-woman wrecking crew against all those zombies. It's a massacre that looks more like a dance if you ask me. Perfect. Just perfect for this deadly beauty. How about moving on to Saitama? One of my favourite things about One Punch Man is how it takes the absurdity of overpowered protagonists up to 11. A parody done right, as they'd say. It's been established that Saitama is able to beat any villain standing in his way with just one punch, but just how would he fare against a gigantic meteor that ominously looms over the city? Are we really asking that question? Of course, he easily demolishes that thing in one of the hair-raising moments of awesome madhouse animation. One punch is all he needs before breaking that thing into several pieces. In a hilarious twist, he still doesn't manage to save the city, which gets pelted into oblivion by the smaller pieces from the giant meteor. Leaving a ruined city in his wake, Saitama's done his job. I mean, hey, the city didn't escape damage at all, but at least it wasn't annihilated by the meteor, right? A lot still happens afterwards, but as far as this moment's concerned, it showed that Saitama's strength isn't only good against villains and intergalactic invaders. Now, while that may be absurd, do you think it can compare to Afro Samurai's bridge theme? Saitama crushing a meteor may be a good show of strength, but I think that in terms of choreography, Afro Samurai's flex of his own takes it to a whole new level. I'll probably let the video do the talking in terms of showing just how overpowered Afro is. Meanwhile, I'll just be amazed at the animation and how creative he gets when unleashing hell against those helpless flies. He really did just breeze through everyone while outright demolishing them without even breaking a sweat. I mean, this is just crazy. A river of blood does follow Afro wherever he goes, to the point that even something as mundane as crossing a bridge is a chance to showcase more violence and wanton destruction. He does deserve the title of being the world's strongest now, don't you think? Let's move on to one of the more traditional shonen titles now, and one thing that I'll always remember is Ichigo throwing Aizen. For multiple arcs, Aizen has been a thorn in the side of the Shinigami, outsmarting them, overpowering them. It seems that Aizen can never be stopped. With the Hogyoku on his side, it just isn't fair, is it? This guy just spent an entire arc tanking and no-selling everything that the heroes can throw at him, only to keep evolving into a new form. Heck, even death and decay from within wasn't enough to put him down. But then, Ichigo arrives. This isn't just Ichigo, this is Ichigo in peak form, having trained for so long inside the Dangai and transcended Shinigami limits. How does he first demonstrate the fruits of his training? By grabbing Aizen and throwing him all the way to the wilderness where their cataclysmic battle can take place. Ichigo pretty much spends the next couple of minutes just stomping and doing Aizen things to the man who flexed on the heroes for the longest time. There's even the whole stopping a sword with a finger thing. How's that for payback? Guts versus 100 soldiers is another damn good moment. There's a lot of things people love Berserk for. Chief among those is the scene of Guts just showing off his power. For him, these soldiers charging him is nothing more than a chance for him to prove how ahead he is compared to everyone else. Guts does take some sizable hits here, but none that are enough to even slow him down as he continues his warpath. By the time it's done, what we're left with is nothing short of a slaughterhouse, with our triumphant protagonist resting against a tree. With the limitations Berserk had in animation, I'd excuse this scene for not looking like any masterpiece, but I know there's got to be a chance to sneak in a Berserk 2016 joke somewhere. Said limitations don't make the moment any less awe-inspiring though. One of my absolute favourites in the series, and an establishing moment for our protagonist. Wang Ling's rage moment makes the list for me. Have you taken my suggestion and watched Daily Life of a Mortal King? Well, here's a moment to remember. Wang Ling finally reveals his true power, laying waste to what I think is the most durable female enemy in anime ever. Just how does she maintain her body after all of that? You do gotta wonder, don't you? Despite what her conceited mind might think, she really stood no chance against Wang Ling. Nil. Zero. Absolutely no chance, as our protagonist quickly demonstrates. We already see power level debates putting Wang Ling against other anime favourites, and that's how you know you made a perfect protagonist flex moment. No one messes with Chinese anime MCs, especially those with friends to protect. This ass kicking is but the tip of the iceberg of the amount of hurt someone like Wang Ling can do. I gotta feel bad for Wang Ling though. All he wanted was a mundane everyday life, and away from the madness that this is, it seems he's never gonna get it. We head to One Piece. Seems like I keep talking about One Piece, eh? There's a lot of great moments that evoked a lot of emotions for me, but for the context of this list, Luffy versus Fishman's gotta be right up there. The moment has some comedic appeal for me. It may not be played off as a joke scene, but in hindsight, it's hilarious seeing everyone's scared reactions when Luffy just so easily disposes of them all. None of the Straw Hats even needed to take to the stage, even when most of them are getting ready. Luffy just single-handedly wrecks half of them with his Conqueror's Haki. No other super attacks unleashed, no punches thrown. His Conqueror's Haki is just that strong to deal with an entire army by its lonesome. Quite the memorable moment we have here, if you're to ask me. Continue with the new gen Shonen Train with Benimaru versus Infernal Demon. Quite the underrated moment right here, as Shinra and Arthur find themselves in quite the bind against the infernal demon. Who else should show up but Benimaru himself? To Benimaru, this fight is personal. With this powerful foe in front of him, he simply flexes his power while Shinra and Arthur watch on. Easily turning away the demon's attacks, Benimaru holds back out of concern for the town before deciding to take the battles to the skies. Here he finally gets a chance to obliterate the enemy with his awe-inspiring sun wheel. People have been applauding the sound direction for this scene, and I think that it does add to the moment so much. That bass alone is one of the most awesome and satisfying sounds you could hear from Fire Force, and it's the perfect complement to watching Benimaru nonchalantly take the enemy down. Rayleigh's Conqueror's Haki deserves a mention. There's so much that you can do with so little. Do you believe that saying? You sure as hell can believe it after seeing Rayleigh's Conqueror's Haki in the auction house. Rayleigh, contrary to expectations, didn't have the most explosive entry at first glance, but the sheer mystery of his silhouette entering the scene more than makes up for it. It even feels quite ominous and all, and when he does finish his entry, all he needed was one Conqueror's Haki to clean house. There's just that sense of wonder, and I dare say dread in the character's expressions. There's that eerie feeling of, what the hell just happened? And it really kept the fans guessing when it comes to Rayleigh's true strength. Now that, my friends, is how you build hype with just one very pivotal moment. What an amazing debut for Rayleigh. Saitama vs Genos is a rather unique application. You see, while most mentors show off their power by fighting villains and enemies in front of their protege, Saitama and Genos do it quite differently. Instead of enemies feeling the full brunt of said mentor's power, it's Genos who offers to do it, wanting to see the extent of Saitama's power. This is a rather unique setup for a mentor showing his protege his power, but it works. I was a bit worried as to how the battle would drag on due to Saitama's one-hit KO gimmick and all, but we surprisingly got quite the entertaining performance that shows Genos' determination. This is a battle that clocks in at almost 5 minutes, which I think also serves as a testament to Genos' strength. It's a friendly spar with not a lot of high stakes, but it also gives us a taste of what the two could do to each other. Remember Minato versus Obito? It's nice to look now once again where it all began. It's so refreshing after so many videos focusing on the final war arc and Madara, you know. For most of the series, we've heard of how great Minato was and all, but we've never actually seen that strength in action. That is, until the flashback arc, which shows us important groundwork on how the Nine Tails in Naruto came to be. Tobi, at this point of the timeline, was one of the most powerful characters around, and it showed in the battle. With all of his power, even Minato struggled to land a hit, but with some ingenious tactics and possibly the most epic Rasengan in the series so far, the fourth Hokage defies all odds and finally forces Tobi to escape. Coolest mentor and coolest dad? You get both in Minato. Not to mention being super smart too. Who else can devise a counter to the very overpowered Kamui on the fly? All Might taking on Nomu may have been one of the best highlights of early My Hero Academia. What a way to close out the first part of My Hero Academia. There's no bigger test for our heroes than an outright battle of survival against some of the toughest villains there is. And it seems like our heroes are in for certain doom until All Might arrives. In a way, this is pretty much just a punch harder fight. However, one can't overlook the emotions the scene evoked when put together. The build up to the actual fight together make a great moment. From All Might's appearance as a beacon of hope and how he just casually talks down and beats down the Nomu, it's just so satisfying. This is a scene that never gets old. I personally think that All Might has some scenes down the line that one up this in terms of awesomeness, but it's here where we first get a glimpse of how far ahead the world's symbol of peace is. He's pretty much Deus Ex Machina incarnate around this time, and his save remains one of my favorites from shonen anime. After all of that, we take a look at Tengen vs Daki. one of the biggest moments of Demon Slayer's Red Light District arc gives us the Upper Moon Daki taking on the Kamado siblings. Yep, you heard that right. Nezuko finally gets a chance to shine as she engages in combat against one of the most powerful demons that the series has shown so far. And it's a fight that took everything from them. Even with Nezuko's awakened powers, the siblings still had their hands full dealing with Daki. In an epic battle that could have gone either way, the Kamados come out on top, but not before sustaining major injuries. The bad news, Daki's still ready to go for more. The good news, it opens for Tengen to come in and finish the job. I almost felt like adding this moment was cheating because Tengen just came in for the last hit, but considering that the siblings at full strength are unable to completely eliminate Daki, it just shows the difference in power between them and a pillar. Tengen's boast afterwards is pretty cool too. That's way too easy, isn't it? Suspiciously so. These guys, they're gonna be in for a real surprise. When I first saw Gojo, I knew we were in for something special. He has that whole laid-back and cool attitude along with the accolades to go with it. He made one hell of a first impression in the very first episode, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before he'd break out as one of the anime community's favourite mentor figures. And that he did when he and Yuji encountered Jogo. Jogo quickly goes on the attack and seemingly finishes Gojo off in one hit. However, the badass teacher brushes it off like nothing and proceeds to do the same thing to the next attacks that the curse can throw at him. When Yuji and he got caught in the domain expansion, it didn't even faze Gojo one bit. In what looked to be a very dangerous and deadly fight, Gojo casually breezes through it, flexing and turning this whole affair into a freaking tutorial session where he can teach Yuji more about domain battles. There wouldn't be a bigger mentor flex than that. It could be because the sequel is inching closer and closer, but I feel that it's also because Bleach is one of the most stereotypical representations of the old man character in Yamamoto. The leader of the Gotei 13 gets his time to shine in real combat towards the climax of the fake Karakura town arc, where he stands fully prepared to face Aizen. Unfortunately for him though, Aizen has prepared a secret weapon to deal with him. Having his powers sealed off by Wonderwise, Yamamoto decides to give the Arrancar a good old beating. Yeah, who says Bleach should be all about magical swords when physical combat, hardened by centuries of training, manages to let Yamamoto obliterate his supposed counter? Take note that Wonderwise had also come from a presumed off-screen win against Kensei, so this guy's no slouch. Since we're on the topic of samurai and shonen anime, why not continue with Gintama? Being one of the 4 devas of Kabuki District, Jirocho's appearance alone would be enough to send warning bells blaring against any opponent. However, any title or nickname an anime character has to hype him will eventually have to be put to the test. For Jirocho, he gets a chance to do so in a battle against the series' protagonist in episode 211 of Gintama. Fueled by rage, Gintoki lashes out and wastes no time nailing Jirocho with quick attacks. He gets the first hit in, and we're treated to a visual spectacle of swords clashing. The fans immediately noticed that something was wrong. Gintoki was in full attack mode, but Jirocho simply brushed everything off with his calm parries. Then, he easily turns the tides and hands Gintoki one of the most decisive defeats he's ever received up to that point of the show, easily defending his title and showing our protagonist an important lesson in approaching combat. Next up is a fairy tale moment. You know, there was a time when things were a lot simpler in Fairy Tail. Just fun and easy guild adventures sandwiched between long and serious arcs. One such serious arc was the guild war between Fairy Tail and Phantom Lord. Well, there were lots of battles, but in the end it came down to Guild Master Jose taking on some of the best Fairy Tail had to offer at that point: Urza, Grey, and Elfman. Those 3 didn't fare too well against a wizard saint like Jose. Thankfully, who else to come to the rescue but good old Makarov? There was a lot of trash talking between the 2 masters of the battling guilds, but even Jose's best efforts at defeating Makarov proved futile against the latter's ultimate magic, fairy lore. This is a great moment and a nice debut for Makarov. We haven't seen much of this guy before, but this extended squash fight would teach people not to underestimate this jolly old man. And we haven't heard anything out of Jose since that total annihilation. We can take a trip back in time with a Hellsing moment. When talking about badass anime butlers, people would unsurprisingly gravitate towards Sebastian, but I think Hellsing's Walter deserves some love too. It just so happens that he gets overshadowed by the crazier members of the cast, but this battle butler has a mean streak of his own. All you have to see is how effortless he makes carnage seem with this moment in the anime. It's a complete 180 turn as his calm walk turns into flawless massacre. Masterfully using his wires, he makes short work of everyone in sight. It didn't matter that they're relentlessly shooting at him, Walter just goes on doing what he does best, and all the time he's just toying with the opposition. People say that we should look out for Alucard, but it turns out that the whole Hellsing organization down to the retainer is just full of dangerous badasses. Let's proceed with a moment from Hunter x Hunter. Yeah, you all knew this was coming, right? What better example of an old character showing off than putting the spotlight on Netero once more? Netero versus Meruem. Not quite because I want to feature something that's less talked about, thus we talk about Netero versus Bito. Looking at how Kite got absolutely crushed, you'd have thought that this could have been more of a fight. But no, the whole sequence just went by in slow-mo along with chilling music and letting the moment sink in. Despite being one of the strongest characters in the series, Bito never knew what hit them, and Netero simply brushed his opponent away in one of the most disrespectful ways possible. You can't think of a better ending than this. Whitebeard's appearance at Ace's execution looked to be a beacon of hope. However, the old captain finds himself overwhelmed by the relentless assault of the Marines as well as Akainu. Anyone would have been rendered helpless against hundreds of different kinds of wounds, but this is Whitebeard we're talking about. Those would be nowhere near enough to put him out of commission, and he soon gets a second win before flexing his strength in an earth-shaking display, wiping the floor on the entire Marine squad. Even in his super weakened state, Whitebeard still manages to come out on top, looking as cool as he could be and standing triumphantly against everyone. Speaking of standing up though, by the end of this arc, he's cemented as one of the most badass old men in Battle Shonen, but I think we can leave that one for another time. For now, let's look back and appreciate this astonishing moment of endurance and power. Fans of Full Metal Alchemist will know how big of a badass Hohenheim is. Without further knowledge, we wouldn't think much of this guy, but I just admire the swagger Hohenheim carried when he set out his and Al's plan to seal Pride, which is ironic because throughout the scene, he stays so composed. Despite being a man with little pride, Hohenheim is one who easily shows off his mettle in more subtle ways. That's simply his style to never overdo things with his power. Best moment for me is how he doesn't flinch at Pride's attack. The biggest way to flex your superiority is to just stay in line of an attack that you know won't reach you head on, right? Really, who does Pride think he is with picking his opponent? Then again, he really is Pride, so it's a mildly assuming turn of events. Knowing how things in FMA turn out, I'm pretty sure this battle and what I just said are all planned and intentional. Ishin takes the next spot on the list. For most of Bleach, we didn't know much about who Ishin is. He's just the annoying Kurosaki dad who pisses Ichigo and Karin off. However, when push comes to shove, he doesn't hesitate in showing off his true capabilities. It's something Grand Fisher finds out the hard way. It's funny because Grand Fisher comes out acting all arrogant. The villain was so confident in his own abilities just because he got a new evolution. Well, it sucks for him that he had to run into one of the stronger characters in the show, and that's no exaggeration. Ishin utterly wipes the floor with Grand Fisher, destroying him in a span of a couple of seconds before leaving with some choice words of his own. Beware the goofy ones, as they say. Local comedic dad ends up being captain level all this time, and I found it interesting that Grand Fisher never got his rematch with Ichigo. It's Daddy who finishes the job avenging Masaki. Endeavor versus Nomu is my next pick. Pleasant may not be the best description for someone like Endeavor. He's not winning any Dad of the Year awards with his attitude, but you'll be a fool to bet against him in combat. Why else do you think Todoroki feels so much pressure and hatred towards his dad, if not for his dad to be second only to All Might? If you're gonna ask me to pick just one Endeavor moment to show how strong he is, look no further than the fight against Nomu. It's as fiery and intense as Endeavor is, and for me, the most badass moment in the fight comes in how he unleashes everything on the high-end Nomu, overcoming even its regeneration. It's such a treat watching him talk about beating the Nomu so bad that it can't even regenerate itself in time before getting burned in an almighty inferno. This fight also doubles as a redemption moment for him, so that's something to take note of as well. The scene surrounding this humanized Endeavor in so many ways, and I didn't expect to be so emotional watching him to go to work. But here we are, remembering this as one of the greatest highlights of Endeavor, not just for the intensity, but for the emotions it made us feel. Endeavor is no All Might, but we all get that. He is a more than fitting successor though, and the way in which he dispatched this Nomu is testament to that. Speaking of dads that aren't too tight with their sons, we have Dragon saving Luffy from execution. Luffy has one big case of disappeared dad syndrome. At least his dad isn't dead. He's just there, roaming around and leading the Revolutionary Army, a story that I wouldn't mind seeing more of. However, he does come in clutch a lot of times. The first time we see him take part directly in the story, we see him stopping Smoker from harming his son. It's such a simple act, but it's made all the better with the presentation. The thunder, the ominous atmosphere, the way they revealed him. You know, Dragon means business with how he just walks in, grabs Smoker's weapon like that, and summons a freaking storm to save Luffy. Dragon isn't one for spectacle or lots of shouting like Endeavor a while ago. Still, that doesn't shave off any points in his badass score. It takes a lot to be the leader of the revolutionaries, and everything we need to know about Dragon is driven home in so little time. Umibos and Kamui have quite the thorny history. Remember, this is a son who literally tried to kill his dad for power, so I mean, that's quite hardcore, I have to say. Estranged since then, the two have had another run-in as members of opposing forces in the Rakuyo decisive battle arc. Kamui sure knew how to make an entrance here, slicing Shirei into two just like that. However, Kamui is truly a fool to think that those theatrics could phase his father. Even after slicing off the mountain and coming at him with the humongous sword, Kamui still fails to land a decisive blow. Turns out, his old man still got it, and in what should have been Kamui's showcase of power to his dad, it's the dad who shatters the sword, seizing the moment and turning it into his showcase of power. Talk about a sudden momentum shift. Kamui tried going all fancy with his entrance and his feats of strength, only to have everything turned against him. It's so great to watch. The succeeding fight featuring Kagura only serves to up the ante. Yusuke vs Ryzen is next, showing us that dad versus son fights have always been one of the staples in anime. Ryzen is by far the strongest fighter in the whole of Yu Yu Hakusho. There is no other way around it, honestly speaking. For all that the protagonists have fought and overcome in the entire run of the show until now, Yusuke still finds himself demolished by Ryzen when they finally had a chance to fight. The insane part about this is that Ryzen wasn't even at full strength. They fought in such a one-sided affair, but the Ryzen that Yusuke fought never showed his true power. That's a flex if I'd ever seen one, but it's not like Ryzen was intentionally holding back to show off against his son. He legit couldn't fight at full strength at that point in the story for reasons that the story soon reveals. It still makes one wonder what full strength Ryzen could have been like, or how much more one-sided the resulting fight would have been. This won't be the end of the dads who have power that far eclipses their sons. No, definitely not. And I hope you can already guess who else is going to be at the end of this list. Minato vs Killer Bee and Raikage is a showdown that isn't talked about enough. We take a journey back to the past for this one, to a time when Minato was alive and well and at his peak. Sometime before the start of the story, Minato had a run-in with both Raikage and a very young Killer Bee. The two forces recognized each other and knew not to take each other lightly, but we all know that Raikage doesn't back down from a fight. What followed was an exchange of blitzes. On paper, Raikage and Killer Bee could have the advantage due to the numbers game, but Minato is just that good, just that ahead, and just that much better in reflexes. He made the two look completely inferior despite them being capable fighters. Minato came ready for a 2-on-1, and after the exchange of blows, he sure came out looking better. The series hammers it home that Minato is the way superior fighter. While there's an argument of Minato not legitimately winning due to not killing A or something, I don't think that those arguments hold more weight to what the show spoon feeds us with. Did you guess it right a few moments ago? Indeed, we have the almighty Yujiro gracing us with his presence atop the list. A monster of a man that Baki aims to beat, Yujiro has had a lot of showcases of strength in the Baki anime. You could point to his numerous fights, none of which gave him any threat of losing, by the way. For the list, I think that Yujiro taking on 100 comps is simple and effective. 100 to 1 advantage is frankly a joke, considering this isn't the first time we've seen it. Berserk ringing any bells? Yeah, what about that? Still, it doesn't stop making the one-man army look completely overpowered. Here, Yujiro easily dispatches every cop in sight using nothing but his bare-handed combat. No guns, no powers, nothing else needed but his sheer unmatched power in terms of combat. This is the guy that Baki aims to surpass. Good luck, champ, you're gonna need it. Fire Force has a shorty, but it sure made a great impression. For those who've watched Fire Force, you know which moment I'm talking about. It's one of the most pivotal moments in the Vulcan's workshop arc, and it's his reunion with Shinra. Shinra's overjoyed to see his brother again. Unfortunately, the same sentiments can't be said of Sho, who quickly attacks. Reacting with disgust, Sho proceeds to quickly defeat Shinra in a battle that was barely won. Even when Arthur, whom many consider one of the strongest among the squad, tries to intervene, Sho easily makes quick work of him. Granted, Arthur came from a hell of a fight, but he also spent quite a lot of said fight showing off only to get one-shotted here. I say that antagonists can really use a very impactful introduction, and while it's a short moment, I think the scene does that and more for Sho. It showed off parts of his personality in a way that fans can quickly remember him for. Him soloing Shinra and Arthur in short order is just the cherry on top. We proceed now with Sabo in One Piece. On the topic of One Piece, everyone will be expecting someone like Ace given the context of this list. However, I personally like to shine the spotlight on Luffy's lesser-known brother. Well, brother in a technicality's sake. Among Sabo's moments, my absolute favourite case of him showing his power is when he shows up in Dressrosa. Disguise and all, his impressive prowess remains. Case in point, the moment when he demolishes the entire arena with a combination of Dragon Claw Fist and Dragon Breath, all while the audience looks on in astonishment at the power of this guy. Sabo's really an impressive character, all things considered. This is a guy who was able to use Haki at age 17, by the way. Luffy absolutely doesn't hold a candle to Sabo at that age. No wonder this guy has quickly shot up the popularity charts and become one of the most beloved side characters in One Piece. Next up is a moment featuring Kirito from SAO, War of Underworld. To say that Kirito has a lot of OP flexing moments is quite the understatement. He's got a lot of them. There's the Gleam Eyes battle where he came dangerously close to dying, or the ending of Ordinal Scale. But I think that my favourite one has to be his revival in War of Underworld. When you've got an entire season dedicated to holding the line and protecting the comatose guy, you better make it all worth it. And sure he did, because why not? It took a season and a half to wait for him to wake up, but when he did, all it took was some getting back into form before he manages to show off the power he gained from defeating Administrator at the end of Alicizzation's first part. He alone trivializes the entire Red Army with the power of his and Yu-Gi-Oh's swords, and he finishes his long-standing rivalry with Visago, showing off an entirely new arsenal of learned abilities he didn't get to show before due to falling into a coma. He didn't god mode his way through Visago, mind you, but at this point, it's clear as day he's literally the only one with even the slightest chance against the arc's top villains. Next, something right in time for the return of Bleach. We're talking about Byakuya in Memories of Nobody. In the mainline series, Byakuya has had a lot of these cool moments, being the prideful and honourable captain that he is. While we can easily talk about how he easily defeated Renji even when the latter seemed at the top of the world with his newly acquired Bankai and all, I think that this movie moment feels more apt if we're taking a simple showcase that results in a quick stomp. What made this such a great moment is that before this point, the guy's barely in the movie at all. He played pretty much no role besides saving Rukia and easily eradicating an opponent who's shown to have given the heroes quite a lot of fits in their previous encounters. Rukia sure had to work to stay alive and fight Jai to a stalemate, but when Byakuya arrives, it's all over. I guess his Bankai being perfect in dealing with multiple clones is a thing to consider, but that doesn't make this moment any less awesome. Next up is a battle from 7 Deadly Sins. How far can one protagonist go in a battle that progressively stacks the odds against him? This is despite how OP said protagonist is. That's the exact question posed by Meliodas' brave stand against the 10 Commandments. To be fair, he did a damn good job roping everyone the first time round. It's not every day that you get to see someone tank all those attacks from top tier fighters, one after another. But Meliodas didn't just tank them. In fact, he used those attacks to charge the counter, preparing to use them against all the commandments at once. You don't get more badass than that. Of course, we all know Meliodas got defeated quickly afterwards. On the other hand, this fight made Estarossa look so much stronger. What better way to build a villain up than to have him quickly one-up the hero who just showcased his power? We proceed with the Dark Wizard Zeref's moment in the Tartaros arc.
当時はエーテリアスと呼んでいた。魔法を形成するエーテルによって作り出した生命だからね。
I admit this isn't the conventional power showcase that we've seen so far. With the previous few moments, it's the brother character showing off his strength or skill in power. But for Zeref here, it's more a show of superiority. You see, Mardgeir here has been soundly beaten by a Herculean effort from the good guys. Then Zeref comes in to deliver the coup de grace. This guy, Mardgeir, who had spent the past few episodes making life hell for the heroes, immediately turns into a grovelling mess begging for mercy. Too bad all it took was a little more than a snap before he gets shot back to the depths of Zeref's book. So much for all the talk about him being able to kill the immortal Zeref. Memento Mori could have done the job maybe, but the scene definitely suggests otherwise. Following that we have Kamui versus everyone. Here's how to leave a massive impression on everyone. Kamui has always been a wildcard character for me. You know, the seemingly strong, edgy rival character type that we so often see in these shonen. He's got quite the reputation, but it's also something that he must defend. He got his chance when he fought Gintoki in Gintama's episode 326. Almost the whole episode is a long, drawn-out fight between the two, but what makes this cooler is that he didn't just fight Gintoki here. He had to go through the whole of Yorozuya and Abuto, and he came out of it looking stronger than ever despite suffering the technical loss. There's no better chance to show off a character's strength than to have him go one versus many, and while Kamui didn't get the honour of delivering a curb-stomped battle like a lot of the traditionally overpowered villains, this fight sure made him live up to his reputation and more. Let me show off my age a bit with this next Gundam Wing moment. For those who were around during the late 90s to the early 2000s, Gundam Wing is probably your first exposure to the franchise. It's mine too, and among the characters, I think us fans can generally agree that arguably the most badass one amongst them is the resident Char clone Zeeks Merkis. Zeeks had a lot of chances to show off his worth, and he's by far the strongest rivals the Gundam pilots deal with. One moment that will always stick to me, however, is when he made the move to steal the Wing Zero. His mission necessitates him to go through an entire army of mobile dolls. Mooks as they are, they have come prepared, and we've already seen that these grunts are more than capable of taking a Gundam on. What more for a mecha that's outdated by this time like Zeke's Talgeese? Quite impressive showing physiques, I'd say. If we just remove the predictability of it all, I'd say going one-man army through an entire battalion of enemies, doing the ultimate sacrifice, and quickly mowing everyone down in your first run with a new mecha is quite badass, and a show of his skill as a pilot. Just how much preparation do you need to even face Itachi? Sasuke had spent entire arcs gathering his forces, becoming stronger, and discarding all he thought was worthless, all for the sake of one goal: defeating his brother and avenging the Uchiha clan. Yet when the two brothers finally meet for their fated showdown, Itachi's reaction tells a different story. From the get-go, Itachi turns the tables on his headstrong brother, opening the whole encounter with a boast. Then he proceeds to outmaneuver Sasuke every bit of the way, quickly shifting momentum of the battle. Well, let's not pretend that Sasuke had it in the first place. To be fair, he quickly recovers and takes the fight to Itachi even if everything seems ineffective. The whole affair turned out to be a touch-and-go battle, which strongly showed Sasuke's growth, but it all began with a badass boast to hype the showdown up. It really seemed that Sasuke had bitten more off than he could chew, and it's all because of Itachi's show at the start. Chinese anime has been making some headway in the recent years. They'll forever be left obscure for obvious reasons, such as marketing and such, but for those who decided to pick them up, they get rewarded by some cool fight sequences with awesome animation and a unique feel. Take this Fog Hill Bridge fight, for example. It really has that comic, free-flowing feel that makes you think it's from a video game cutscene, a vintage game from the past decade or so perhaps. While the fight itself is an awesome showcase of power on the side of the animators, it's got a grand moment at the end. The scene gave me some Aizen vibes, if you get what I'm saying. Stopping an attack with a hand followed by a one-shot, but this time it's done in such a wild manner, both in and out of universe. The smooth movement of lines, the whole shaky effect, exploding someone's head after choking them, never looked as intense before. Next in line we have Rin versus Brandy. Remember Interspecies Reviewers? Yeah, that show that blew up for all the meme reasons and whatnot. Surely the guy behind it could have come up with something even wackier and crazier in the grand scheme of things, right? Well, he's got another title in his resume, and while it's not as attention-grabbing as Interspecies Reviewers, it is still damn cool. That's Idaten Deities. It's got some of the things you'd expect, like the profanity and the violence, but it's also got these amazing moments of character flexes, like Rin taking on Brandy. A route, if you will, that drives home the fact that Rin is one of the most powerful characters in the show. Just when you thought she's on the ropes, she easily pulls the comeback in the grandest way possible. Even when it looked like she's receiving the decisive hit, Rin just easily shrugs that attack off and wins. Nothing short of expectations for the last remaining Idaten. Let's move on to Leo versus Generals from I'm Quitting Heroing. I'm Quitting Heroing is one of the shows that I found quite interesting for the year. It's quite niche in the grand scheme of things, but I feel that it's a show that lives off both its premise and the idea that people just love overpowered heroes. It's not every day we see the scenario of the overpowered hero getting the opposite of a hero's welcome. It's a no-brainer to understand what Leo's capable of, but this battle against the Generals is one of the times he showcased it in a way that comes with an insane wow factor. While it's nothing as comically over the top as snapping his fingers and causing everyone to explode, it just shows how far ahead Leo is compared to everyone. He more than deserves his reputation, and in a twist, he doesn't even look heroic doing all of this. Normally, showcases by the supposed hero would be met by cheers of excitement, but for this moment, he plays the villain billing so perfectly, we can't help but look in silence, awestruck. We then have Dark Schneider's introduction. For someone with as much hype as Dark Schneider coming in, nothing less than a bombastic first impression, a showcase of power if you will, would suffice. Thankfully, we got that and some in Dark Schneider's awakening. Not even a few seconds after returning, Dark Schneider shows off his power by immediately destroying 2 towering monsters before flexing creation magic. Some banter ensues, but once the talking's over, it's back to the destruction we go. And boy did we get destruction. The Dark Wizard easily makes short work of every enemy, turning them into paste with magic that he fires off oh so easily. Sure, an impending catastrophe requires extreme measures, but these people better not regret awakening the most powerful wizard of old in their quest to save themselves. For all we know, Dark Schneider could be the cause of their doom if they're not careful. Now we move on with Jin Mori versus Park Ilpyo. It's one of those friendly matches that gave off the effect of master versus student. I really like these fights because of the general positive yet competitive atmosphere they give us. When Jin Mori and Park Ilpyo battle it out in this episode, it felt like an impromptu training session until it wasn't, and things got serious, with the latter releasing his 9 tails form. Well, how does Jin respond to this sudden twist? By taking it head on, of course. Ilpyo may have shown off his shiny form along with some super destructive attacks, but he just became the perfect opponent for our protagonist to test his strength against. Just to show us how strong our protagonist really is, he gets to face the full might of Ilpyo's 9 tails transformation while calmly shrugging off the force of the attacks. Jin got it in him to face the veritable pandemonium head on and came out on top. This is one of my favourite fights in the series, and it ended up with Jin showing the world what he's really made of. Who better to make an appearance here than Mikey himself? Yes, the invincible Mikey is here to nobody's surprise. In case you're wondering whether he deserves that nickname or not, here's the fight against Valhalla to convince you. The gang war erupts, and as all hell breaks loose, we see Mikey facing multiple people at once. The numbers game wasn't looking too good for Mikey, and he himself takes a trashing, but that invincible moniker isn't for nothing. Despite all the punishment he endures, one rage moment is all it takes for him to turn the tides on everyone. He starts no-selling the shots before breaking free and destroying every opponent in sight. See, that's the thing about Mikey that I like. He's not untouchable per se, but after he lets you have your fun and get your hits in, then it's payback time. And payback courtesy of this guy, it ain't pretty. The greatest villains prove their might in the most memorable ways. Sometimes that involves defeating some random slob that's 4 times their size. Other times it's going up against the hero team and destroying everyone decisively. And that's exactly what Orsted did. Before this, Orsted already made a presence in an encounter with a dragon, but this is the first time we've ever seen his feats in actual combat against the heroes, and boy did he make a mess out of Dead End. There's simply no match for the Dragon God, as we as fans were made to watch what was nothing short of a massacre. It's a very dramatic sequence of events that easily drove home the point that this Orsted is the real deal. A true challenge that Rudius just won't be able to overcome anytime soon. We have Gojo versus Miguel. Miguel starts in the fight on the offensive, trying to attack Gojo, but all it does is open up the floodgates to Gojo, showing how overpowered he is. There's just so much to take away from this fight. You gotta think of Miguel's rope and how quickly that thing folded trying to seal Gojo's powers, and it's supposedly one of the most powerful cursed tools out there. To be fair, it allowed him to hit Gojo a bit, but that's all she wrote before Gojo responds with an eye-popping offensive featuring a blitz of punches, kicks, and throws. Gojo just ended the fight within seconds, and to think that everyone had high expectations for Miguel going in. Hey, let's at least give Miguel credit for surviving that many hits at once. If you thought Japanese light novel characters are overpowered, let me introduce you to what Chinese novels have been giving us. There are lots of series, long-running series, that will put people like Rimuru or Tatsuya to shame, and one of those is Daily Life of a Mortal King. The name should have given you enough hints already, but actions speak louder than words, so I present to you this video of Wang Ling easily annihilating the Demon King and saving the world. With how he nonchalantly no-sells the attacks and sends the enemy packing, it's giving me flashbacks of Arnos. Yeah, I think with how powerful Wang Ling has been established in the series, no one less than Arnos himself can match how hilariously overpowered this guy is. Or Saitama, I suppose, whichever genre you prefer. The point is, if you need any more proof of how overpowered Chinese novel characters can be, take note that Daily Life of a Mortal King is just the tip of the iceberg. After that, we move on to Killua versus Jones. If there's an opponent needed to match Killua's training as a member of the Zodiac family, it's got to be someone like Jones, right? A notorious mass murderer with a sadistic streak, Jones has no shortage of sadism and confidence in himself. This is a guy who takes pleasure from murders and gleefully embraces the feeling of flesh and blood. A perfect match who will take Killua to the limit, right? Wrong. For all the supposed hype and big talk surrounding Jones, he just gets easily destroyed by Killua. In the blink of an eye, Mr. Mass Murderer here gets his heart plucked out and crushed, quickly putting an end to the deathmatch. He didn't even have a chance to comprehend what hit him. If that's not a way to show off Killua's prowess in the most dominating manner possible, then I don't know what is. Jujutsu Kaisen 0 brings us the next showcase of power, Yuta vs Geto. There's a lot to like in Jujutsu Kaisen's prequel movie, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. I covered a nice Gojo fight from the movie, but it's time we focus the spotlight on another character this time, Yuta. It's nice seeing Yuta get his time to shine in the movie. He and Geto had a fight that's worth 1,000 words, so here's the clip to let you experience the action for yourself. You've got to love those camera angles and how they make fights really intense. More importantly for this list though, is the fact that we've got another candidate for the most powerful anime punches here. Talk about a huge momentum shift after how Geto seemed to have the upper hand for most of the fight. A comeback made even more amazing with how it's presented and the magic of cinematic quality. I expected Jujutsu Kaisen on the big screen to look great, but this is just taking it to another level. For someone not on the protagonist side for once, here's Obito's rage moment. There are few things that are stronger motivators for anime characters than seeing the death of a loved one. We often associate that with the heroes, but even villains have those moments too, and those often lead them down their diverging paths. Take Obito for example. Seeing Rin die at the hands of Kakashi was enough for him to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, and let's just say that the results ain't pretty, especially if you're one of the poor souls in the vicinity. It's a slaughter like no other, and it didn't matter if Obito is completely outnumbered. There are few things that compare to the power of an angry Obito wielding one of the most powerful weapons in the Naruto universe. Even at his young age, he'd already shown tremendous power. No wonder he became such a thorn for the heroes as he grew. Kagura vs Abuto is up next. Beware the nice ones, a super common saying, and frankly it's become cliche at some points already, yet anime protagonists seem to forget this all the time, like when Abuto pushes one button too many when he fights Shinpachi and Kagura. After handling his business quite well, Abuto decided to go for more, to relish the moment and let Kagura see Shinpachi in quite the most tragic way possible. Big mistake though, as all this does is awaken Kagura's Yato blood, and the rest is history. This is a Kagura that we just don't see. Gone was the old Kagura, and what we have in place here is a deranged killing machine, even drawing comparisons to Kamui. Even as Abuto tries fighting back, it's all futile against the unleashed Kagura, and he very nearly loses his life in the process. It's a one-sided route, there's no other way to put it. Our strongest instincts get awakened in the midst of a pinch, and when some of the nicest people get pushed to a corner, the results ain't pretty. Abuto had to learn this the hard way. Mob shows Koyama who's boss in the next scene. There are many things to remember Mob Psycho Season 1 for, but if we're talking simple flexing of power by our unassuming teenage hero, this one's probably it. This is the highlight of the season. Koyama does seem to get the upper hand at first, roughing up our hero a little bit, but when the gloves come off, then it's over. Much like the Kagura moment, this is one of those super rage moments triggered by seeing a friend in danger, but in comparison to that, I think this one is a tad better in terms of animation and presentation. Then again, it is Mob Psycho we're talking about, so that is a no-brainer. On another note, I've always appreciated how the psychic meter gets utilized in early Mob Psycho. It gives a sense of escalation, and with it, a lot of anticipation for viewers to see the moment when Mob does reach his breaking point. Next up is Luffy's Red Rock moment against Kaido. Head up! Is this the climax of One Piece or what? For a lot of people, it does feel like it. After so much build-up, the fight with Kaido is here, and to say that it broke all expectations is an understatement. The long clash that pits our heroes and their allies against the Beast Pirates has been a ride, and I don't think that clips alone could do it any justice. It's the payoff to a long build-up in an arc that has quickly become my favourite. And of course, we have some landmark moments that include Luffy finally managing to land a decisive hit on the previously impervious Kaido. As someone who's been billed as a crazy OP villain, seeing Luffy bring Kaido to his knees was such a great treat, but to do it like that and with the OP playing, goosebumps, I tell you, goosebumps. As I said, clips don't do it justice. Even if you're a lapsed One Piece fan who only follows spoilers, at least watch this clash. It might reignite your love for the franchise with how awesome it is in anime form.
お前らを超えて海賊王になる男だ。
Oya, being chased and with no escape from the masked outcast, had no choice but to confront them head on. And you know what? It might just be the best decision ever, because what follows is a mind-blowing showcase of amazing animation and fight sequences that the entire show has to offer. The choreography of this fight constantly brings fresh elements to the table with each watch. The way the cinematography complements the fight scenes is just god tier. Let's have a moment of silence for those who still haven't discovered this incredible fight scene. Oya showcases not only his incredible physical strength, but also his remarkable reflexes. He can unleash great force from various parts of his body, especially his hands, sending enemies flying with a single touch and effortlessly dodging multiple assaults as if it was just a walk in the park. The animation, combined with the smooth and sick choreography, is just mwah. I just wish this level of dedication and animation had been showcased in the previous 2 seasons of The Outcast. Nevertheless, this scene remains one of the greatest in the show, solidifying what a true showcase of power looks like.
エアよ存分に歌うがいい。
フルスロットルで行くよギル。
We've brought up the epic Gilgamesh vs Enkidu many times before in our videos, and for good reason. Even to this day, it remains an incredibly rewatchable scene, keeping you on the edge of your seat, both enjoyable and exhilarating. It's a reunion between 2 best friends, an amazing presentation of the power of divine spirits. Enkidu was Gilgamesh's one and only match, not just in power, but in their ambitions and initial ideas when they started their journey. It's mind-blowing to see how, despite their overwhelming power, they laugh it off, displaying not just machines of destruction, but the most wholesome friendship. Yes, they might be destructive forces, but their friendship is one of the most wholesome things in this whole story. It's the most epic, long time no see bro I've ever witnessed. This power-packed scene, where they hold nothing back, is an explosion of eye-candy animation, a scene that we're always gonna remember.
1000年以上生きた魔法使いだ。
Frieren, the cute mage we've come to know in each episode, has lived through hundreds of years of experiences, and it's surprising to witness her wield her power in such a manner. It serves as an example of how much more there is to discover about her strength. To provide some context here, the magic tool in question serves as a means to determine who possesses the most magical power. The winner can then enforce their will upon the loser, regardless of the latter's consent. The reason the demon agreed to such a high-stakes gamble is that Frieren had deliberately concealed her magical prowess to appear weaker. Then, without hesitation, Frieren ordered Aura to take her own life as casually as if it was just any other ordinary day. This act was chilling to say the least. She's had difficulties with individuals possessing strong wills as they can break free from her commands. However, when she attempted to defy Frieren's orders, she managed to resist for only a mere 2 seconds before tragically meeting the same fate, decapitating herself. This moment showcases the immense power and authority Frieren wields.
ワン・フォー・オール・フルカウルインパクト 45%デトロイトスマッシュ
What I adore about this scene is how it portrays Deku's growth. He doesn't give in to his emotions, he fights with sheer willpower and determination. His increased power and mastery over his abilities gives the impression that he's holding back, an incredible example of the depth of the show's writing. As Endeavor pointed out, Deku is a true hard worker, and this scene showcases his relentless efforts. There's a significant change in his demeanor too. He's quieter, he doesn't even need to scream the names of his attacks anymore, which adds a chilling touch to the moment. Finally, seeing these incredible scenes animated after some time is truly exciting. And just to clarify, delivering a punch like that at 45% power implies he basically tore the guy's stomach out. Counting on regeneration, it's terrifying and absolutely badass.
クソ子つまんねえ男になっちまったな I am atomic.
Eminence in Shadow's unique style had its fans riding along with the I Am Atomic wave for a short while, which added to the buzz. Given the nature of the show where Sid usually prefers to operate in the shadows, it was only a matter of time before an explosive show like this took center stage, and when it finally happened, it was undeniably cool. It's been a while since we've witnessed such ham-fisted, over-the-top destruction in a toony light novel adaptation, and it's a blast to watch our protagonist step up and save the day once again. Sid's journey to becoming the world's strongest entity has been nothing short of eventful, and his signature move, I Am Atomic, is the epitome of his power.
遊びが終わりだ
Pucci's incredible speed and the way he's depicted zooming around are truly something else. It's evident right from the moment Pucci gains control over Heaven that the odds are stacked against the protagonists. The fact that they confronted a stand they knew was nearly unbeatable is just insane. One of the most intriguing aspects of Pucci's character development is how his fighting style evolves as he acquires new stands. When he had White Snake, he was a recluse who operated in the shadows, never revealing himself and relying on ambushes to catch his enemies off guard. With Sea Moon, he was able to stand confidently in the open and level the playing field. Finally, with Made in Heaven, he became the pursuer, controlling the environment and keeping constant pressure on his foes, forcing them to be on the run. It's a fantastic character evolution for Pucci, and it adds a layer of complexity to the battle. The fight involving Made in Heaven is undeniably the pinnacle of action in Stone Ocean, albeit it came at the cost of losing some incredibly talented fighters in the series for a brief moment.
おかげも何も全てが無駄になるということをこの完成体スサノー
The clash between Madara and the Five Kages is consistently excellent, with standout moments like the utilization of Mokuton clones. The episode shines with its overall presentation, especially when it comes to portraying the gravity and tension of the battle. Madara's overwhelming power and his deep respect for Hashirama add depth to the fight. Despite facing 5 Jonin-level shinobi simultaneously, Madara still holds back, showcasing his true extent of his savage strength. Madara Uchiha is unquestionably one of the series' most formidable characters characters, and witnessing him effortlessly controlling the most powerful and respected ninjas in their respective villages is a testament to his unmatched power. The battle's intensity and Madara's unparalleled strength leave a lasting impression on viewers.
さて一つ質問をする。そいつら分身がスサノオを使う使わないどちらがいい？
Before Saitama's arrival on the scene, the Deep Sea King wreaked havoc, even severely injuring Saitama's disciple Genos. This was perhaps the first time Saitama's immense power was visibly demonstrated in front of an audience. After receiving a rather lackluster punch to the back of his head from the Deep Sea King, Saitama, being One Punch Man, delivered a punch so overwhelmingly powerful that it exploded the upper half of the creature and stopped the raid. The aftermath of this encounter is a reminder of Saitama's incredible power, further cementing his reputation as a force to be reckoned with. I know this anime was made to be funny, but it's just so endearing when Saitama remains humble and unassuming, even going so far as to downplay his victory, lying about his battle with the Sea King for the sake of other heroes. The hero's association's reluctance to acknowledge his greatness just adds a touch of hilarious irony to his character. Saitama is undoubtedly a humble yet remarkable force in the series.
本当にそれでいいんですね。お、雨止んだな。それが先生の進む道だというなら俺は何も口を出しません。
死ね。神の怒りに焼き貫かれて。メギド！
Rimuru's character is built on goodwill, aiding strangers and fostering relationships. That being said, if you touch one hair on anyone he cares about, consider yourself dead. The one-sided massacre left me speechless. With a single spell, Rimuru destroys his enemies. Yes, his aspiration for human and monster coexistence remains, but threatening his home and people guarantees an absolute eradication. The moment Rimuru uttered Megiddo and the background music got louder, I was covered in goosebumps. The timing and the musical arrangement were impeccable, leaving a lasting impression. It's a scene that's both chilling and immensely satisfying. We all love One Piece, and not including Luffy's Gear 5 from this list would be a crime. It is the definition of power after all. Of course, Luffy's journey wasn't a piece of cake. It was filled with many defeats that led to his immensely satisfying final battle against Kaido. Beyond making the anime a visual treat, it also brought to life Luffy's most powerful transformation. The anime introduced new, powerful Gear 5 attacks not found in the original manga, which makes everything all the more exciting. With Luffy awakening his Devil Fruit, it became clear to Kaido and the audience that the Gum Gum Fruit had incredible potential. Gear 5 defies the usual trope of an endgame power-up in a shonen series, with its unconventional design and fighting styles. This form grants Luffy unparalleled freedom on the battlefield, allowing him to manipulate the world and his own body in imaginative ways, showcasing the incredible power and gravity of Gear 5 and Luffy himself. Witnessing the rumbling is like coming face to face with an apocalypse, a cataclysmic event poised to end the world. There's a unique kind of fear evoked by this imagery of hopelessness that's spine-chilling. Eren stands as the living embodiment of Emir's rage and her yearning for freedom. The image of the rumbling is tattooed in my mind, a haunting scene of unimaginable power. The emotions displayed, rage, disappointment, hatred, and profound sadness towards humanity's intent to destroy him and his people, pulled the trigger. The show doesn't revel in shock value, but quietly illustrates the reality of Eren's horrifying actions. This devastating scene isn't meant to entertain, but to highlight the grim consequences of Eren's well-intentioned yet catastrophic decisions. For anyone still holding out hope for the redemption of the anime's hero-turned-villain, this gut-wrenching genocide is evidence that such redemption might not be possible. This stands as a testament to the unfathomable power Eren holds.
これが自由だ。次の呼吸、5の型、カウンの海。
During his intense battle against Gyoko, the Upper Moon 5 demon, Gyoko revealed his true form and attempted to trap Muichiro in a watery cocoon. However, Muichiro's power and determination proved to be overwhelming. He activated his own Demon Slayer mark and swiftly struck down Gyoko with a single blow, showing incredible resolve and strength. Muichiro was a true 14-year-old prodigy, achieving the rank of Hashira in just 2 months and even inventing the 7th form of the mist breathing technique. The last scene of him single-handedly defeating Upper Moon 5 in moments is a standout moment, and it's now one of my personal favourites. Muichiro's extraordinary strength and quick dispatch of the Upper Moon 5 demon left no crumbs without allowing even a moment for any backstory to be shared. The First Division commander left fans in awe during the 6th episode of Bleach TYBW, dominating Twitter trends all day upon its release in Japan. Yamamoto's Bankai is everything you'd expect from a monstrous force wielded by the Gotei's strongest captain. As a manga reader, I'm thrilled with the addition the anime team made, particularly in expanding the early stages of the fight. However, the meat of the battle faithfully follows the source material, showcasing Yamamoto's Bankai and its multiple forms, each of which could be a Bankai on its own. What's astounding is how Yamamoto looks 100% terrifying. It's as if he didn't even need it anyway. This Bankai isn't just physically powered, it's also a mental drain. Imagine facing off against this powerhouse with him constantly switching between his 4 stances. The anime team flexed their animation skills, demonstrating their mastery of impactful frames. A package like this is the perfect stage for Yamamoto to shine brilliantly before exiting the scene. Up next is Striga fighting in day armor. Castlevania Season 4 has been nothing short of awesome, and whilst there's more to it than the fights and action sequences, it's moments like these that truly send it over the top. Feast your eyes on this eye-popping sequence of Striga just destroying everyone in sight. It's as brutal and violent as you'd expect, and I don't think maximum carnage would be enough to describe the destruction she released on everyone. The action's fluid, the choreography's on point, and you can really feel the impact every time she swings that large sword of hers. An awesome moment as one of the audience, a truly harrowing moment though, if you imagine yourself in that scene. People have been calling this the Berserk adaptation that we needed and never got. And you know what? They're right. Coming up, we have a One Piece moment. On one side, we've got Luffy teaming up with Law and Kid, and on the other side, it's the Beast Pirates, all of them. As they say though, unnamed mob characters all fall en masse, especially against heroes, much less guys as strong as the worst generation. While there's really no tension, I mean, come on, do you really think Luffy and the boys are going to lose here? I gotta give some props to the animation. Can you imagine One Piece after over 2 decades still gets much love and treatment from Toei? It also makes seeing the worst generation's powers look so awesome. Do they even need each other? Each of them can take down a whole ship by themselves. It's quite a funny thought though when you think about it. We take a look at Shigaraki versus Ridestro. Villain fights intrigue me because of the dynamic that they employ. Yeah, both are bad guys that you won't root for typically, but there's always the more charismatic and the more likable one that you'll be rooting for. In this case, it's Shigaraki, who has a tough matchup ahead of him. Well, on paper at least. Hey, Ridestro gave Shigaraki a run for his money at several junctures, but once Shigaraki's quirk evolves and he finally grabs hold of that peak power, it is all over. It's all Shigaraki as far as I'm concerned, and he makes Ridestro the first victim of his ferocious counterattacks. It's a chilling moment when Shigaraki completes his resolve, but I can't help but feel in awe to see his evolution complete in such a manner. Melting down an entire city is something, I tell you. This is Shigaraki's crowning moment, the very time we know that he means business. He solidly cemented himself as the ultimate villain and the one capable of following his master's footsteps. Our heroes have a tough battle ahead if they want to even sniff a chance at beating this monster. After that, we have Levi versus Zeke. Wait, is this the correct season? Hold on a sec. Yeah, it is indeed. Remember how Levi utterly destroyed Zeke before? Yet the poor slob just keeps coming back for more, doesn't he? With a quite healthy dose of fear this time. And yet again, Levi flexes his power on Zeke almost effortlessly, in fact. This time, it's not a meticulous breaking down of Zeke like in Season 3. Zeke doesn't even want to fight Levi at this point, but you know, Levi doesn't care. While it's even less of a fight than before, it's still one hell of a moment that will get your heart racing. The image of Levi falling down unfazed before killing off his comrades turned Titans is an underrated highlight for me. Unfazed and unworried, all he had was sorrow in having to solo destroy them all, and that he did. Levi is not the strongest soldier for nothing, and even after he's proven that again and again in so many instances, he hasn't lost his touch one bit. All the way to the final season, Levi remains a human super weapon, and that, my friends, is pure awesomeness.
Kyoshiki Murasaki.
One of the best moments of all in Jujutsu Kaisen came in the form of Gojo finally joining the fight with his spectacular hollow purple. This comes in the midst of Yuji and Todo having one superbly animated battle against Hanami. The fight's already good, and I've talked about the insane animation of fight progression on another video, but having Gojo come in and finishing it with a show of power, man, it's just the series being given the justice that it deserves. What more can be said of Gojo's power after this moment? It's clear that he's the type of mentor who's not going to be jobbed out anytime soon just to feed some villain hype, and he's probably the strongest person on the side of good. Period. Feels good to see an overconfident character taken down a peg, isn't it? Thanks Suletta for this next moment. We knew it was coming. Anyone watching the first episode of Witch from Mercury knew it was coming. But that doesn't take away from the awesomeness of seeing the brash and arrogant Guel get humbled in the face of a duel he thought he could sleepwalk through. Well, he either overestimated his skills or he underestimated his opponent, because he sure didn't seem like the top duelist given the flow of the duel itself. Turns out the Ariel has way more tricks up its sleeve than Guel gave it credit for, and he pays for that big time. The duel ended up being nothing more than an extended squash as it sees the Dilanza get completely wrecked against all expectations. It was quite the promising debut for Suletta and the show. We get to see more amazing duels down the line, but this is a quick showcase that amazed both characters in universe and a lot of Gundam fans eagerly awaiting this show. Denji vs Bat Devil is coming up next. One of Denji's early tests in Chainsaw Man is as epic as they come. At first it did seem that Denji bit off more than he could chew as the Bat Devil ragdolls him. He gets thrown around easily, and while I don't think anyone bought it in universe, it seemed that Denji's done for, only for him to come back out with a blaze of glory. Sure, he does say some stuff that's awkward for the situation, but it's that drive that allows him to make his comeback. While he only got thrown around by Bat Devil, he responds tenfold, eradicating Bat Devil in one of the many violent ways he disposes of his opponents. With the size advantage and the amount of violence, it does harken back to some Attack on Titan, if you kind of get my drift. We've all heard this tune before. Hero gets beaten down to the point we're supposed to believe they're a goner before mounting a comeback so one-sided, some people wonder why said hero's falling behind in the first place. But it's the actual atmosphere and the visuals that make scenes like that. Predictable doesn't mean bad, and with how epic the guitar riffs are and how crazy the animation is for the scene, I can't help but feel goosebumps. Mappa has blown us away once again, and I'm positive they'll continue to do so. How about a villainous example to spice things up now? Atom Smasher has been a long-time favourite among Cyberpunk fans, but said fans also can't help but think that he got the short end of the stick. Thankfully, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is here to fix that, and what we got is this climactic fight between David and Atom Smasher. True, David's on his last legs at the time of this showdown. I mean, I don't even think he thought he would win this fight. Yet, even with all the enhancements and the power-ups he'd just gotten, there's just no way he would feasibly be able to defeat Atom Smasher, and even if he somehow did in a miraculous twist, there's a fate worse than death awaiting him. On another note, that doesn't take away from how strong Atom Smasher is. David at this point barely even put up a fight as he gets obliterated completely by Atom Smasher. You see, that's how you build up a villain. That way, when said villain gets beaten eventually, there could be a lot of hype surrounding the one who comes out with the win. It's a writing technique that will be used for the next entry too. Boss vs Oken is a fight to remember. Ranking of Kings has been regarded as one of the best anime to come out of 2022, period. And how about showing off the fight between Boss and Oken? One of the best moments the series gave us. It plays things out the standard build up and defeat way. First, we get to see Oken show off the power of his immortality. In spite of being outnumbered by all those master combatants, none can stand up to the power of Oken and his unstoppable regeneration. But then comes Boss. After building up Oken, the show then builds up Boss by having him absolutely defeat Oken in a one-sided showdown. No questions asked, it's over. Boss completely dominated the fight, and in case you're wondering about Oken's immortality, well, it turns out the king has just the right solution for that. It's not a battle that showcases explosive techniques or super speed or anything like that, but it sure is a huge showcase of power on the part of Boss. We then move on to the next epic showcase of power, Shigaraki's Awakening. Shigaraki pre-season 6 is already bad news. We've seen what he can do with his powers and know how overpowered it has the potential to be, but to see it demonstrated firsthand in this way? Absolutely amazing and scary to wit. This guy went from decaying body parts to completely wrecking a city with his improved powers. Such is the true destructive potential of his quirk, and seeing even heroes fall to his might will be enough to induce despair into anyone. A whole minute showcasing the destruction is more than enough to evoke memories of Pain wrecking Konoha back in Naruto Shippuden, and to cap it all off, he even puts on X-less gear to make a statement. I personally enjoy the tone switch that My Hero Academia pulled here. The first parts are quite easygoing despite all the changes. You always feel that there's no real threat present. It feels like the story of Deku's growth and All Might's presence bringing hope to everyone. But now, it's gone. And it's like the villains are the ones being overpowered. Really gives us a completely different outlook on the series. It's now everyone's struggle against an unstoppable god of destruction, and with protagonist plot armor being ripped off one by one, I'm loving every minute of it.